In last week's video, we applied what's called finish primer to parts of our owner's hull. A step forward from the high build primer we had been using up until this point, it is the last step before paint. But not only that, it is supposed to stand off much easier than the high build primer. It has now been 8 days since we applied it, where normally it would be pretty hard at this point, and Matt is getting ready to sand it down to prepare it for the next coat.
My new fancy sander with vacuum, all set. We are going to try the extract, those little mesh pads on this. I used the 180 in prepping for this surface. Now we're going to step up to 320 at this. I think it's early, but Jess wanted me to do 320, so you listen to the boss.
Colby is the one who told me that he uses 380 when he gets to this stage of putting on finished primer, and I trust what Colby says when it comes to sanding and painting, which is why I suggested it. And besides, I did not pay all that money to see so much of it end up on the floor.
I'll give that a shot if that doesn't actually work to tape off. You can kind of see a little, probably see from this angle, you can see some orange peel in here. If the 320 just isn't enough to get that down, then I'll switch over to the 180, obviously simple enough. But it'll be nice seeing some progress. And it's actually looking, I think it looks really good. I'm very excited that we're now in the home stretch, I think, for this area. And what it's really doing is it's giving us a boost and letting us know what stages and what we actually need to do to finish off the other spots. Yeah, it's all been a long, long time coming, but we're getting there. We're getting close to that paint. This accounts for probably 15% of the actual interior that we need to fare out. The rest of it is ready, I think, pretty close for this stage. And then we still have those aft bursts that need to be done as well, but that sounds like a really good winter project for us.
Everywhere in here, but we can see what the final sanded product looks like after Matt used the 300 and something grit sandpaper here. And in some of the edges, like the coves here, I probably can't make it out well on my camera, but it's still a little orange peeled. I'll have to go over that with a hand sander, but the rest of this is just our DA, and it's come out really well. And if you notice, one thing on here is how little of that pink high build is showing through, which means all of these surfaces were incredibly fair. We're like getting so close. So here you can see, yeah, that bit of pink that came through, but everything else is showing that buttercup yellow, which means that, you know, we're doing a really good job getting so close to having these surfaces ready for paint. So I think we're going to do one more round of this finished primer as soon as I can get into some of these areas, sand on the coves, and once we can finalize this shine here and get an actual straight line across. But pretty soon we'll be ready for our final layer of finished primer in here, and after that is going to be paint. So excited! Last week we took some time out to enjoy land life, which is what most people do, a life on the grid. But what happens when severe weather plans to knock that out? That's why we were lucky to have our Anker SOLIX C1000 with us for the trip. Although there are many purposes and scenarios this can be used for, it's perfect to power your essentials during a power outage. The 3-level ambient light strip helped me to illuminate the immediate space around me until I could get a lamp plugged in. It has 11 charging ports, including 6 AC power chargers, which is great for small appliances, as well as your computer, and 4 USB chargers for your phone and other small devices. Anker SOLIX C1000 is the fastest charging 1000 kilowatt portable power station, which benefits from hyperflash and ultra-fast charge mode through the app, making fast charging safe for your devices. Plugged into an AC power supply, it will charge in only 58 minutes. Easily portable at only 26 pounds, it's also great to keep in your car for power emergencies. Make sure to check out the link in our description box for pre-sale benefits such as 25% discount and sign up for the chance to win the PS30 portable solar panel, the Nebula capsule, or the Anker Everfrost 40. One of the reasons we have not yet added primer to the guest head, even though it has been faired and ready to go for months, is because the plastic which protects our half mold was full of rips and holes. Spraying the primer without changing it first could lead to unwanted paint on the gel coat. Yet somehow, we never got around to tackling this small project. Now we've decided enough is enough, tore off the old frame plastic, and put down new sheets. It's so beautiful. Oh well, it just needs to work.
It just needs to cover the surface for priming.
Just
to protect the
few weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be so different in here once we get primer on. Can't wait. So then it can look as pretty as this area in here. The other area we were getting ready to spray, bulkhead 6 on port side, had already been gone over twice with our high build primer. Lots of work had gone into perfecting the edges and coves with our epoxy fairing compound, and now we're ready to move on to what we hope is the last round of high build primer here. I have spent a lot of time lately in the aft guest berth here as we're working on the stern tube and the floors. And one thing I always think about as I'm staring forward is the area when you come down the aft set of steps right in front of this guest berth is, oh, with the primer on, everything looks so good. Look up to the V berth, pretty much primed, a little bit of filler in there. That's looking so good. And between the two is our guest head. And that still has the white fairing compound and our orange fairing compound and black lines all over it from when we were doing the guide coats, and it just looks so gross and tacky in between these two beautiful areas. So happy that today we are finally going to put the first coat of our primer on there, the all grip, and then just turn this into one beautiful pink area.
Take a look around you, everything's brighter, can you see? And don't look down now, let's just be here, you and me. This wonderland, it belongs to us, you will see. I'm flying so high off the ground, I'm way up here, and I just can't come down, no, from here. Everywhere we go.
Nothing like hot coffee on a hot day. And another like weird side news, I cannot wait for my contacts to come in about a week. I have been out of them for 6 weeks now, very annoying. Not fun to wear glasses when you're trying to build, although sometimes they do protect your eyes. But we have gotten all of the surfaces primed, and the surprising news, maybe not because it is so hot, is that even though we did it this morning, Matt thinks it'll be good to sand in about an hour instead of having to actually wait for the next day to be able to do that. And the aft end here, so cockpit leading over the sill, bulkhead 6 leading to the aft berth. This is looking nice. I think this is the second or third coat of primer, round I should say, because I each get 2 coats when we do it. It's looking good. The areas that we're unsure of is, of course, the chine. Looking a lot better though. I actually just kind of hand did that line. And the guest clothing cabinet inside, obviously not done. Outside is looking pretty good. And then just the steps and bulkhead 6 leading into the bunk. Hopefully all of this, because I have spent so much time on it, will be ready for the all quick, the last round of primer very soon. But then, the guest head has finally got primer. It's no longer that ugly orange color all over the dagger board. Matt did such a good job on spraying here, everywhere really. And he went with like a finer mist this time, knowing that he'd have to go over it more. We were kind of getting like thicker orange peel things before runs, so now we just went with a finer mist, and it is looking really, really nice in here.
Take your time. I'm not gonna make you climb down. Digging deep down to turn out. You say I'm not your kind. Come on, you didn't think I would find out. Pick a side or fade out.
In the past, Colby has been nice enough to lend us his DA sander for taking off our high build primer, but we decided it was high time we got our own. Purchasing a 6-inch 3M orbital sander, this dual action comes with a collection bag, meaning I won't have to spend an hour of my night cleaning up all the sanding dust. So not only does Matt have this new toy to play with, making sanding easier, but for this round, instead of sanding with 80 grit paper, we've moved ourselves up to 180 grit. After multiple rounds of priming and fairing the space, we don't need to work it as hard as before. Plus, the next step of finish primer does require the less aggressive finish we had been adding the high build primer to.
No, you can't hold out.
It is the unofficial end of summer here in the United States, so everyone is out having a good time, enjoying themselves, but that also means that it is now the start of boat show season. And 2 weeks from now, Matt and I will be attending the Newport boat show in Rhode Island. So make sure to come see us there. We're going to be at a YouTube Sailing Channels booth or just wandering around. So make sure to come say hi if you're there. And we do have a coupon code for you to use. It is MJSailing5. And that allows you $5 off a one-day admission ticket for up to 1 or 2 people. And that's good on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Matt and I have never done the Newport boat show before. We've actually never even been to Newport before, so we're really excited about this. We can't wait to see all of you there. So don't forget to use that code. Come to the show, come say hi, and tell us some of your favorite things to do in the area for if we get some free time to wander around as well.
We're now so excited to be at the stage where we're finally installing some of this equipment. Amber, I can actually talk about equipment instead of just sanding and fairing. Well, last episode we were talking about deck jewelry. Now we're actually going over our underwater jewelry. We've had quite a few questions as to what we're using for props because of regeneration. When we were installing that strut along the bottom and the prop shaft, that was when I started discussing it. What our original plan was to do a folding prop, which gives us the best ability to be able to beach the boat and make sure that the prop isn't the lowest part. Well, once we switched over to the hybrid system and the electric motor, now regeneration has become a big thing, and how that actually works in this scenario. If it was a folding prop, when you're going through the water, the blades fold down when you're sailing, and of course that isn't going to regenerate any power at all. So the blades aren't going to be open and regenerating any power. So either we have to go with a fixed blade prop, something that doesn't move at all, but it's always in kind of a forward pitch and doesn't really help us out. Or we go with a feathering prop. We've had feathering props before, phenomenal, but they do have some limitations. So we're gonna run into 2 different things with a feathering prop. We need reliability and we need performance. So with reliability, one of the things to know is with a performance catamaran, especially a lightweight one, is we'll be accelerating and decelerating quite rapidly. And if you look at our videos from Vietnam when we were testing the boat out, you can see how that happens. We need a prop that's going to be able to hold that position properly and actually take that snap load of engaging and disengaging at higher speeds. That puts a tremendous load on the propeller itself. When we're accelerating and going up to 15 knots, we need it to be able to stay engaged and to be able to handle that shock load when it's going from accelerating and decelerating and the blades are actually moving themselves. The criteria that we're looking for is making sure that we had something that was going to be very strong and robust so we don't run into any problems later on, but it's ongoing wear that we're trying to eliminate. The other thing is performance. We need it to be in the reverse, so we need the blades to actually go into the reverse. That's going to generate the most amount of power for us. And we also need it to, again, not shock load and to stay in that reverse position. The other side of it is we don't know exactly how we're going to have to pitch this.
Propeller pitch is the distance the propeller would move forward in one rotation if it were moving through a soft solid. Think of a screw being turned into wood.
One of the reasons why we chose the prop that we did is it allows variable adjustment. So we can have a different pitch for forward and actually a different pitch for reverse. So we can change that and make sure that we're optimizing that regeneration when we need to. We can also have the forward propulsion as much as we want as well. So excuse the pun here, this is a very adjustable Very prop. That's what we ended up choosing. This is the Very prop from SPW. This is one of the benefits of being friends with a bunch of people in the marine industry. Is Brendan from AB Marine, which is the US distributor, contacted us about this, thought that this was going to be a good match for our boat, and after doing all the research on it and checking out everything else, we concluded that is going to be the best thing. Things you're going to notice with it. If you look at the hub diameter, very, very big hub. Negatives with it is we end up losing a little bit of blade area, but this is an extremely robust, extremely strong mechanism. I'm going to show you why that's important. So this is a prop from a friend's boat. This was used on a mild boat, so not something that's really performance oriented. And disregard the looks of it because it's actually not that old. But if you look, this is that wear that I'm talking about that you usually get with a feathering prop. So when it ends up engaging and disengaging, which now the mechanism is pretty much locked, that is the problem. It ends up building up a lot of slop because there's gears in here. And once the teeth end up wearing away, all of a sudden now we have this problem where this is what you, not only do you hear this when the boat's sailing along, so it's rather annoying, but you end up losing a lot of the thrust and forward and reverse, and a lot of times they'll just, again, they lock themselves in position and you lose your whole folding or feathering mechanism. Now, this particular one somewhat can be rebuilt, but it's a very expensive process, and when you're spending this much money on props, you don't want to have to do this more than once in the lifetime of the boat. So again, that's why we went with the Very prop. It is extremely robust. The gear mechanism in here is, well, just looking at the two, you can tell how much stronger, how much larger the gear mechanism is in the root, so the base of these blades. So you can imagine that going down into the structure. There's a very, very large area there. During the testing of the hybrid system in Vietnam, Max Crews found that when they're doing the 14, 15 knot runs, they were getting some thudding when it was engaging and disengaging of the props when they're feathering. So one of the things we wanted to do was making sure that we chose a prop that was going to help eliminate some of that problems. One of the things you'll see with this is it kind of, you can see it kind of locks itself into whatever position it is until it gets enough thrust, then it can go override that and go to the next position. We'll just call it like a rubber bumper in there, and that's going to prevent a lot of that thudding that would normally happen when the blades are feathering, when they're going from a forward to reverse pitch, which is a huge, huge issue, and this will help stop that from actually happening. So, reliability, we talked about that thudding that helps eliminate. With the Very prop, we are able to adjust the forward and reverse pitch independently. So on the forward, I can have that, so it's the maximum that the engine's able to do, the way you'd normally set a prop pitch. And then in reverse, I can make sure that it maximizes the regenerative function for that. And this is adjustable in the water. So once we launch the boat, because you know it's going to be very difficult to take this back out if I need to be able to adjust it, I can dive down and there's little adjustment screws right here. And I can do that into micro pitch. So I can sit there and adjust that and make sure that we're optimizing that reverse pitch and making sure that we get that regenerative as best as we possibly can. Talking about the root of the blade itself, you can see how big this actually is. So you can imagine that gearbox below there and how strong that structure is. The hub, so the distance around here on this is 107 millimeters. So very, very big, robust setup. That one that I showed you that was doing the clinkety clank, This is 87 millimeters. So there's a pretty significant difference that we're seeing with that hub. And again, that all translates into strength, which is going to be the important thing when we're doing these fast speed changes between that regeneration and knot. So we don't get that clunking, we don't get this reliability issue that comes with it. It eliminates all of those things, and it's just all of those little details that went into why we chose the Very Prop.